the dim light of a cool spring morning in 1971, a notorious figure named John Anglin stood at the edge of his prison cell in Alcatraz, contemplating an audacious escape that would become the stuff of legends. Known as one of the most famous escapees in American history, Anglin had spent years behind bars, serving time for bank robbery. As he gazed out through the barred window of his cramped cell, he could hear the distant sound of the waves crashing against the rocky shore of San Francisco Bay. It was a sound that whispered freedom. Alcatraz, often referred to as the Rock, had a reputation for being inescapable. Surrounded by frigid waters and strong currents, it was home to some of America's most dangerous criminals. But Anglin, along with two accomplices, his brother, Clarence, and fellow inmate Frank Morris, believed they could defy the odds. The trio spent months plotting their escape, meticulously crafting their plan, while carefully avoiding detection from the ever-watchful guards. They began by digging holes in the walls of their cells, using improvised tools fashioned from spoons and metal scraps. Over time, they managed to create small openings concealed behind the thin layer of plaster that had originally covered the cell walls. The escapees also collected materials that would aid in their flight. They fashioned makeshift rafts out of raincoats, which they painstakingly stitched together to create buoyant vessels capable of carrying them across the treacherous waters of the bay. It was a remarkable feat of ingenuity and determination, born from a desperate desire for freedom. As their plan took shape, the men developed a system of communication to coordinate their actions. They used coded language during mealtimes, signaling one another while appearing to engage in casual conversation. Each passing day brought them closer to their goal, but also heightened the risks of discovery. The night of June 11, 1971, was chosen for their escape. The moon hung low in the sky, shrouded by clouds, providing a cloak of darkness that they hoped would conceal their movements. After the guards conducted their nightly head count, Anglin, Morris, and Clarence sprang into action. They removed the vent covers from their cells and crawled through the openings they had created, inching their way toward freedom. In the corridor, they navigated their way past sleeping inmates and guards, using the darkness to their advantage. Their hearts raced as they reached the prison yard, where they quickly assembled their makeshift rafts. With the roar of the ocean as their backdrop, the three men pushed off into the waters of the bay, their eyes filled with hope and fear. As they paddled into the darkness, the cold water seeped into their makeshift rafts, threatening to capsize them at any moment. The currents were fierce, and the reality of their situation began to sink in. The men knew they had only one chance. Turning back was not an option. They struggled against the waves, relying on their determination to propel them forward. Meanwhile, back at Alcatraz, the guards noticed something amiss during the morning head count. When they discovered the trio was missing, panic ensued. They initiated a search operation, scouring the prison and its surroundings. As the hours passed, hope began to dwindle for the men still on the run. Would they survive the treacherous waters? Anglin and his companions had anticipated this scenario. They had planned their escape route meticulously, aiming for Angel Island, located about 2 miles away. As they paddled with all their might, they could see the faint outline of the island in the distance. But the journey was not without peril. The icy waters took their toll, and fatigue began to set in. Suddenly, tragedy struck. Frank Morris, the mastermind behind the escape, realized that their rafts were losing buoyancy. The raincoats were beginning to give way under the strain of the waves. "We need to swim for it," he shouted above the sound of the crashing waves. With their makeshift rafts faltering, the men made the decision to abandon them and swim the remaining distance to the island. The cold water sapped their strength, but the thought of freedom pushed them forward. They fought against the currents, clawing their way through the frigid bay. Just when they thought they couldn't go any further, they felt the rough texture of the rocky shoreline beneath their fingertips. They had made it to Angel Island. Exhausted but exhilarated, the men collapsed on the beach, gasping for air. They were still in danger, however. They knew that the authorities would be searching for them, and Angel Island was not a secure refuge. They had to find a way to avoid capture. With limited supplies, they scavenged for food and water, relying on their survival instincts to stay hidden. They managed to evade capture for days, moving cautiously and relying on the dense foliage of the island to conceal themselves. But their luck began to wane. Despite their efforts, the authorities were relentless in their pursuit. Back on Alcatraz, a massive manhunt was underway. The FBI and local law enforcement scoured the waters, interviewing inmates and guards. News of the escape spread quickly, capturing the attention of the media and the public. Everyone wanted to know how 3 men had managed to pull off such an audacious feat. Days turned into weeks, and as the search for Anglin, Morris, and Clarence continued, the men began to lose hope. Their rations were running low, and they could feel the walls closing in. On the night of June 24th, 1971, a storm hit the Bay Area, with heavy winds and rain. It was during this tempest that they made a fateful decision. They needed to leave Angel Island. With no other option, the trio fashioned makeshift life vests from debris they found on the island and prepared to brave the stormy waters once more. As they set off, the raging seas threatened to swallow them whole. They struggled against the elements, but the darkness of the night and the fury of the storm engulfed them. It was the last time anyone would see them alive. The next day, search teams scoured the bay, but all they found were the remnants of their rafts and personal belongings. Frank Morris, John, and Clarence Anglin had vanished without a trace. The FBI concluded that they had likely drowned, but the uncertainty surrounding their fate left room for speculation and intrigue. Years passed, and the legend of their escape grew. Some believed the men had perished in the icy waters, while others held on to the notion that they had successfully evaded capture and started new lives elsewhere. Letters began to emerge, claiming to be from the Anglin brothers, suggesting they were alive and well, but none were ever verified. In 1975, a postcard arrived at the San Francisco Police Department purportedly from John Anglin. The handwriting matched his, and the message hinted at his survival. The authorities were intrigued, but they could never confirm its authenticity. The story of the escape transformed into urban legend, an embodiment of hope and defiance against a system that seemed inescapable. Alcatraz itself was closed as a prison in 1963, becoming a national park. Visitors now wander through the cell blocks, drawn to the story of the escape and the mythos surrounding it. The eerie atmosphere still lingers, with the waves crashing against the rocks, reminding all who visit of the prisoners who dared to dream of freedom. In the end, the legend of John Anglin and his companions is not just about the escape itself, but about the spirit of resilience and the quest for freedom. Their story resonates with those who believe that even in the darkest of times, hope can illuminate a path to liberation. Whether they survived or not remains a mystery, but their audacity and determination to break free from the confines of Alcatraz have etched their names into the annals of true crime history. The question of their fate continues to captivate the imagination, serving as a testament to the lengths some